Hi everyone. I said in my last Iraq video that this video would be about the drive north, but even though I spent 14, 20 minutes talking about the time that I talked about, that was 4 months worth of time that I went through, and I think it deserves more than 20 minutes. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that time. First off, I think I mentioned in past videos, I know I have, that I've got a back injury from the Army, and that actually happened. The initial injury happened in Iraq. In Fort Lewis, Washington. We were training. We were doing some convoy training in Fort Lewis, and we were doing a simulated chemical attack. And the NCO that was driving the truck had me put the mud flaps of the truck on the floor of the cab, which is where they do not belong. And I did it instead of arguing with the guy because he was higher ranked than me, which I should have argued with him, and I started arguing more after stuff like this. But anyways, and we simulated the chemical attacks. I had to put your pro mask on. Pro mask is protective mask. Gas mask is what a regular civilian would call it. You can't see very good at it, that thing. He pulls up to the side of the road next to a ditch, and I'm in a huge 5-ton truck anyways. It's quite high from the ground, and I go to get out of the truck with this pro mask on, holding a weapon, and my foot catches on the bar of the mud flap where you hook it onto the back of the truck. It hits my heel. I go flying out of the truck backwards and do a head plant down in the ditch. So I didn't only fall as far as the truck is, but I fell beyond that into the ditch itself. And that's where I initially hurt my back. They gave me a short couple-day profile, and and then we went in the field for a week, and I had to chase around my lieutenant with the radio on my back, and it was a Charlie series radio, and those things weigh 30, 40 pounds, closer to 40 pounds, around 40 pounds anyways. And I got this on my back, and I'm running around all week long with this on my back, and it hurts bad. And you know what? You don't say anything. In the Army, I don't know how it is in the other branches, but every unit, everything I've done in the Army, you're only as good as your last 5 minutes. And if you are hurt, you become worthless. Officers, NCOs, they all make fun of people that are hurt. They call them broke dicks because you're worthless, and it causes people to ignore injuries. There are people who fake injuries. Malingerers that go to sick all the time and don't want to do this and that and the other. But there are also people who are prideful and want to do what they're supposed to do. And this was still a time where I was excited about being in the military. The guys that I was in the Army with talked about how, man, I used to be so gung-ho, this, that, and the other, and how, they really misread me. And they didn't misread me. I was gung-ho. I was excited about being in the military. I was excited about serving my country and doing this, that, and the other. And, but then I got hurt, and there came a time where I couldn't ignore being hurt anymore. It became an issue in Iraq, and I'll get into that later. And from that point on, the Army stopped caring. They stopped caring, and that is why people ignore injuries in the military. It's sad, and I ignored the injury. I just worked through it. And then I went to Iraq and was in a very unhealing environment, constantly re-injuring it over and over and over again, until it became the huge problem that it is today. I experience pain 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there's nothing I can do about it. Sit still, stand up, walk, exercise, it all hurts. And I have to, change how I'm sitting, where I'm sitting on a semi-regular basis to keep the pain at a tolerable level. If that makes any sense, I don't know. Pain is unique to the individual that experiences it. But I digress. I got hurt, and I ignored it. We went in the field, we did all this stuff. And then we go to Iraq, and, actually, when I left off, we were in Kuwait, we were getting ready to go north. But I'm not ready to talk about going north yet. We went through a lot of briefings about what to expect when we went north. Tactics of the people who were against us at the time. This is the first year. So, a lot of the taking control was still happening. We didn't have established bases all over Iraq at this point yet. And, there was all these different tactics that whoever they were, they're all the different insurgents. Some of them were Iraqis, some of them were Syrians, some of them were whatever. It doesn't matter who they were. They were fighting us, and they had different tactics. Like they would have children sit in the road so that convoys would stop because there's children in the road. Americans are sympathetic. There's a lot of, I don't want to say bleeding hearts, but there's a lot of people naturally in the United States that value lives more than the people who were fighting us value. I'm not talking about all Muslims, all Iraqis over there, because as you'll see when I talk about these videos, I met a lot of really good Arabs, and the majority of the people that we met over there, huge majority, were very pro-American. They loved us. They liked us being there. But the point that I'm making here is that they were having children sit in the road, and Americans would stop, and we would get attacked when we stopped, and they'd kill American soldiers. So they talked about what we should do in a situation like that, and I'm not going to get into it. I don't know if I'm allowed to get into it. I've got my rules of engagement card right here, and at the very top it says secret. I don't know if it still applies. I don't know how all that works. I don't know if I can talk about what's on this card since I'm no longer there. I know while I was there, I certainly wasn't allowed to talk about what was on this card, but it's been several years. I know the rules of engagement have changed from this point, because at this point, when we were given this, just about, there was, it wasn't as complicated as it is now, because now there's Iraqi soldiers that are on our side, and then there's the insurgents. And sometimes it's hard, at least when I was there, it was hard to tell the difference between one and the other, because they're all Arabs. When I was there wasn't uniforms or whatnot, and I'll talk about that in great detail later. But, we don't know, I don't know if I can talk about it, is what I'm trying to say. Maybe I'll contact JAG and find out, but I'm sure I'll get a standard don't say anything response. They talk, they'd give us briefings on what to do in different types of situations, whether there was a roadblock, whether an ID goes off. They're giving us all these briefings on what to do in all these different situations. And you're preparing yourself mentally to respond in the way that you're trained to respond. And you're getting yourself prepared to essentially, kill people. It's war. In war, people are going to try to kill you, and you're going to try to kill people. That's how war works. Whether you're for or against war, that's what war is. War is people getting killed. It's certainly not talking. That's diplomacy. So, I can't I'm trying to keep what I'm talking about what I experienced only, and not get into the political side of it, because I'm not a politician. I don't know what goes on behind their doors, and I'm not going to speculate on it, because speculation, in my opinion, is worthless. Only what you know to be true has any real value, because anything else could be or couldn't be true. Well, I guess I don't entirely believe that, but anyways. So that was a difficult time in Kuwait, preparing yourself mentally. But at the same time, I didn't have a problem, because I was very angry with all Arabs at that time. I categorized them all in the same boat. That they all hated us, they all this, that, and the other, and I found myself to be very wrong. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, because it's several months before I realize that I shouldn't carte blanche hate them all. There's very few that hate us, and there's really no reason to hate any of them. They feel the way they feel for whatever reason they feel it, and I can't expect them to think like me. That's naive, but I was certainly prepared to defend myself, even after I came to understand that they weren't all quote-unquote bad. But it was still a difficult time, because, I mean, being willing to take a person's life, knowing that you're ready to take a person's life, even now it's hard to talk about that, because some people would look at me and think, well, some would think, yeah, right, like you know whether you could do that or not, and others are like, would judge you because they believe that you'd be willing to do that, and they think you're a horrible person because of it. But I don't care. A lot of the guys had a saying: it's better to be it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And that was their, I can talk about that. That was their rules of engagement, because if they felt the need to use lethal force, they were going to use lethal force and face a jury rather than be killed and be carried by 6 pallbearers. That's what they were saying in that statement. And I was very outspoken at this time about the situation. I don't know how much to say. It's difficult. I don't like who I was when I first went over there. Back in the day, I talked in another video, I used to be a hateful person, and I'd gotten over that. But 9/11, it sparked that anger, that anger in me, and I allowed it to grow and fester. And anger can take over a person's life. It's not a good thing. And when they talk about fighting and fighting calmly, if you can fight calmly, at least fighting without anger is the best way to do it, because anger clouds your judgment. It gives you blinders, tunnel vision, where you don't see left or right. You don't see arguments for or against, or the good in a person, because all you see is the idea of who you think they are instead of who they really are, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I don't want to get all stupid with this stuff. Interesting. But, we would talk about it with each other. And there were some people that I talked to that they didn't think they'd be ready to do this, and I told them that they would be. It's different when it happens, and for the most part that was true. Other people talked about fear and this, that, and the other, but they still did their job when the time came to do it. Suffice it to say, I prepared myself. And we're going to go north. And next time I do a video, I'll be ready to tell the story of going north. So, that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.